Welcome to the Steve Reeve Podcast with the best moments from the past week and a few things that didn't make it to air. Monday.
I am now made of ham. Not a complaint. It was incredible. And we didn't go crazy or anything. Just got together with a couple of friends. There was roast veggies, mashed potato, stuffing, gravy, and of course, the ham. And my girl is the master hammer. The preparations have gotten so good, with the cloves and the sugar and the pineapple slices. And we each were raving about this unreal ham that came out of the oven with the perfect balance of flavor. And she was getting visibly annoyed because, like I said, we didn't go crazy cooking this time. And she put the least amount of effort and meticulous, fussing that has gone into a ham in years. So she says the opposite of the classic. It's not as good as I usually make it. And it came out so great, so good. As I said, I am now made of ham. Easter Monday. But it's not just about the space shuttle. It's about the discount chocolate, isn't it? Is that out yet? Or is it one more day? Honestly, depends on where you look. I did spot some on-sale chocolate on Saturday, but the discounts weren't very deep just yet. You really want to get it during the half price or less period, because then it's not just that it's cheaper chocolate. It's easier to justify eating that chocolate at that price. You just smack it away at the, I always see a deal like that, though, except for after every single holiday ever.
You're listening to the Steve Reeve Podcast from 100.5 Cruz FM.
It's time for Cruz Music News with Steve Reeve.
Gary Newman says he's about 90% deaf. This after appearing on the I'm ADHD, No You're Not podcast, telling the host that he's got hearing aids on so he can hear what's going on, and adding, 90% deaf. Done from plugging Les Pauls into amplifiers at maximum volume for 50 years, he says. Meanwhile, Guns N' Roses are showing up with a song they have not performed in over 35 years down in Sao Paulo, Brazil, Bad Apples. They also covered some Black Sabbath as they are starting off this current tour, really getting things just, kicked off for the first time over the last few dates. We've also got the date, Saturday, in mind after seeing Jack Black and Jack White reunite again. They first met at an airport lounge a few years ago, but this time around, School of Rock alum Jack Black was also Bowser in the Mario movie, should say that, was hosting for the 5th time, joining the Five Timers Club, and to help inaugurate him, White came out very quickly, saying he's got like 15 minutes before he has to move his hearse because of parking validation, and they launched into Seven Nation Army, but with some customized lyrics. I cannot play you a clip because NBC said absolutely not. Speaking of special songs being played, though, the Artemis 2 mission crew have been woken up by NASA playing a song each morning to get the mission kicked off, a tradition that actually goes back all the way to the 60s. Day 1, Young and Sick covering Passion Pit with Sleepyhead. Day 2, Green Light from John Legend and Andre 3000. Freddie Jones Band with In a Daydream for Day 3. Pink Pony Club, Chapel Roan on Saturday morning. And yesterday, Working Class Heroes from CeeLo Green. What's going to be today's? Well, I kind of have a feeling that they should play Time from Dark Side of the Moon. Pink Floyd, come on! Although that is a lot of clocks going off all at the same time. Kind of a rough start to the day. That's it for your music news. I'm Steve Reeve. A dude got hit with a puck over the glass, and there was a literal birth at the Oilers game on Saturday. It was also the end of the win streak as Vegas won 5-1, but nobody was talking about that afterwards. The guy that took the puck to the head, he was definitely telling his story. Probably not too happy about the goose egg forming above his eyebrow. He looked kind of annoyed, but when you're in pain, he's now got a story though, and he got himself cleaned up in the bathroom, now gets to have his day. I do hope that the Oilers organization reached out after the fact to give him, tickets or a jersey or something, right? But the birth was not in the stands. I think that would have been pretty noticeable, but it was confirmed during the broadcast on Sportsnet that something was going on.
Breaking news. We have word that someone has gone into labor here tonight. There's a baby being born on the 7th floor at Rogers Place as we speak. So someone...
Let me guess. New dad didn't want to leave the game when she was going into labor because, but they can still just turn this one around. Listen, when you start something, you have to see it through to the end, babe.
Tuesday.
Yesterday, with the false sense of security that things were actually melting outside, I was watching a pile of the Lunar flyby event, and it was amazing. Literally awe-inspiring. Awe was inspired in me. However, it was also largely very dull, with some moments of total silence stretching out for just so long, literally nothing interesting on the screen. But such is the nature of space. If you think about it, most incredible sights and discoveries that we have ever sought out in the history of our species. Dotting a whole lot of nothing out there. I thought it was actually kind of perfect. And the crew accomplished their scientific objectives. They took their photos, some of which we don't even get to see until they do come home. And now they're heading back to home with their Nutella jar in tow. Oh, and, when they do touch down, they get to dine out for a long time on being the 4 humans to travel the furthest away from Earth anyone has ever done it. That's a record. Well, it looks like Wireless Music Festival is no more after catching some controversy. If you have no idea what's going on, I'm not surprised. It's a UK-based festival, but it's gotten a lot of attention as it was announced that Kanye West was going to be headliner for the affair. A lot of people protesting that. In fact, sponsorship pretty much deserted the festival, and the organizers were saying, yes, things that he has said are abhorrent, but urging British fans to show compassion, show forgiveness. Well, the UK government is saying no, and is just blocking Kanye West from even entering the country effectively, forcing them to cancel Wireless Festival 2026. Meanwhile, we're just about at Coachella Festival for the year. The first weekend kicks off on April 10th, the second weekend, of course, 17th through the 19th, with tons of acts. They have just announced the stage and set times, and have added Jack White as a last-minute addition to the lineup, doing a 45-minute set on the Saturdays, in addition to other incredible acts. You've got the XX, 9 Inch Noise, which is 9 Inch Nails and Boys Noise together, Iggy Pop, David Byrne of Talking Heads, and The Strokes, who are also just announcing a new album. We are weeks away, apparently. They just on April 6th let us know that in the flesh, it's even sexier, with just a few guitar chords chiming, and also the tagline, reality awaits. The new album by The Strokes, out this summer. And that's all that we know so far. That's it for your music news today. I'm Steve Reeve. The state of Maine, south of the border, is being likened to the canary in the coal mine as they weigh whether or not to ban all future AI data centers outright, like new construction. I'm extremely wary of them myself, as all I seem to hear about is the negative impact to the environment, the slurping up of the fresh water supply, what little we have, and the mediocre benefit to the job market once these things are built. Basically, the construction phase, sure. After that, not so much. And a pile of other projects in the U.S. data centers are stalling out as investment falters before the ground has even been broken. I'm feeling pretty NFT about it, you know what I mean? Like, the hindsight's going to be very 2020. Meanwhile, in Alberta, the government just exempted Kevin O'Leary's proposed world's largest AI data center park from environmental scrutiny. For some reason, I can't believe. I wish he would just stick to acting, but, it is fine to explore data center possibilities in your own backyard. It is. But I urge you, bring the hard questions with you. If it's important enough to need to have it, it's important enough to do the due diligence to do it right.
Wednesday.
We have to talk about it. Newfoundland was slapped with the label Freezing Island, Freezing Canadian Island, by some stranded British Airways passengers this week. Anybody have any family out there who encountered the travelers turning into icicles, apparently? According to the reports, they were just completely frozen. Some tells me they were warm inside a building for the most part. Unfortunately, their flight to Houston had to be diverted. There was some sort of medical emergency, and it took almost 2 days to get the 250-plus passengers back on their way. Admittedly, that does suck. Spring has been rolling in very slowly in Canada. It has been cold there, but hardly as cold as it can get. And we know that the hospitality was very, very warm. Hotel staff at the Delta, where many of the people were staying, were there at work early. They were leaving late, making sure food buffet style was available. Some were even taking personal vehicles to ferry people to and from grocery stores and pharmacies and stuff, diapers and essentials. The misfortune, I think, has been blown out of proportion. Though having travel plans get upended always sucks. I can totally relate to that. It is funny, though. People have been having fun on social media and talking about this freezing island experience. There's even a video that got posted up on Reddit that had David Attenborough-style narration for it. Marooned passengers that need food, Wi-Fi signals, and other creature comforts, that kind of thing. I think it's absolutely hilarious. Everybody's on their way now, and it sucks if they missed something important in Houston, but they got an experience I think they will never forget in St. John's. New announcement from Pink Floyd, talking about Dark Side of the Moon. They've actually got a new collection called the 8 Tracks compilation, a new album that's going to be out before too long. Pre-orders, of course, available already, but June 5th is when Sony Music releases it. It's not just a reference to the old format of releasing music. 8 tracks, of course. There are 8 of them. Money, Wish You Were Here, Another Brick in the Wall, Part 2, Time, Comfortably Numb, and earlier cuts of One of These Days, and What's the Deal. But also an exclusive version of the song Pigs on the Wing, which was only available on the 1977 Animals 8-track cartridge release. It all comes full circle. Definitely curious to hear all that is contained within there. Some infighting with Journey happening ahead of a 60-day run with tour dates planned, apparently, without the approval of the current singer Arnel Pineda, who took over for Steve Perry in 2007. He was speaking to Rolling Stone recently about not being too happy about how things were scheduled and planned, and now guitarist Neil Schon has put out a novel on social media addressing the allegations. Well, hope that the tour goes well. And meanwhile, apparently it cost $15 million to reshoot the Michael Jackson biopic called Michael, releasing later on this month on the 24th of April. It was reported by Variety that the original ending of the film was heavily going to discuss the child abuse, assault allegations that were levied against him in 1993. However, it seems like all of that has been scrubbed, and the new ending, spoiler alert, is really just after the success of the Bad album was released, and he was truly at the height of being the king of pop. Interesting. A lot of money to scrub up some of the story right there. That's it for Music News today. I'm Steve Reeve.
Hey Alexa, play the Steve Reeve podcast.
We were talking about this British Airways flight that unfortunately had to get diverted, and the passengers, some 250 plus people, had to spend a couple of nights in St. John's, Newfoundland, and they were calling it being stranded on a frozen Canadian island. Neil calling in, you said that struck a chord for you.
Me and my wife, we were in Poland. It was 14 degrees there, like we were visiting the salt mine, and I'm in a T-shirt. And I looked around. Everybody there was in, like, winter gear. I'm talking, like, heavy coats and scarves. And this one lady, she says, I got to ask, where are you from? And I'm like, Northern Canada. She said, I figured as much. She was actually from England. Like 14 degrees is winter to them, right? So
yeah, no, it's true. The coldest it gets, so that's the extreme that they experience. I was just in New Zealand a few weeks ago. We actually found another couple that was from Edmonton. We knew that they were Canadians because of the lack of layers that they were wearing. They had exposed arms, and we're like, oh, fellow Canadians. We can tell because everybody else is bundled up like it's minus 40.
Isn't it great to find somebody that, you can relate to?
It is that time of year, though Mother Nature is dragging the heels on it. It's springtime, and it's funny, doing spring cleaning, finding the things you haven't seen in a while, and then having to determine what stays and what goes. The Marie Kondo sparking joy or not conversation, although a better way to determine it is if it had poop on it, would you keep it? Would you try to wash it? Would you try to salvage it? Or would you just throw it out? Pretty good indicator of if it needs to stand the test of time. But we found a pile of old stuff, a little box of old photos in a little, cheap frame set in a box in a cupboard, collecting dust. And, for almost every one of the photos in there, I had this fond memory flash over my brain. I had a big smile on my face. you go, yeah, you got to keep that. I want to have that feeling again later on, years from now. And then there's the ones you flash by, look at the photo, and you go, oh, well, yeah, maybe not. You make a 3-pointer into the garbage can across the room.
Thursday.
Only one more sleep up in space for the Artemis 2 crew. The pod's landing back on Earth tomorrow evening, wrapping up this historic 10-day mission. I'm sure up there it felt at the same time like a million years and like a blink of an eye. But they've seen things no other human has ever seen on the dark side of the moon. They've gone further than any other people ever have by a factor of about 4,000 kilometers, and they have not broken the human spaceflight speed record. Oh, they didn't break it. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, you can't win them all. I guess the Apollo 8 crew remains the champs on that achievement, but the Artemis 2 crew are stowing gear on their final push home, and they will be splashing down off the coast of San Diego Friday evening. So, after they clear medical evaluation, they can hit up the zoo. Quite a little vacation. The two bands are coming together for a set at Coachella, but more than that is on the way from the 9 Inch Noise, fusion of 9 Inch Nails and Boys Noise. They have shows together at Coachella this weekend and next, and amongst all of the billboards that dot the desert on the way into the area down in California, there was a billboard announcing that they've also got a collaborative album that's going to be coming out, and we won't have to wait that long. April 17th is when Halo 38 arrives. You're also able to pre-save, pre-order, all that goodness. And Coachella this year also upgrading the output for streamers. It's going to be a live stream with all 7 stages available and 4K resolution on all of them. I plan to be watching this weekend. And next, Gorillaz. They're going to be playing their first ever shows in India, and this comes after a inspiration for the most recent album, The Mountain, occurring after a trip between the two founders, Damon Albarn and Jamie Hewlett, in India, and then going back there to record the majority of the album. They're headed back there for the very first shows ever in 2027, starting early in January. And a very special event commemorating the 10th anniversary of the death of David Bowie has his legendary backing band from the Glastonbury 2000 performance that got turned into a concert film and album released in 2018 are reuniting. All the backing band are going to be playing an event called Bowie Live on the Loch in aid of Save the Children, happening in Scotland November 7th and 8th, way later this year. That's it for your music news today. I'm Steve Reeve. Though we are more than 200 days out from Halloween, guess we got to start thinking about it. A new giant skeleton decoration is hitting Home Depot. Now, at least in the United States for sure. I couldn't find confirmation. I was looking. Couldn't find that it will for sure be coming north of the border. But for those who can find one, you'll have the perfect accompaniment for your easy-to-store 12-foot human skeleton decor that just ends up staying out the whole year round, because what else do you friggin' do with it? But this year they are adding to the lineup a 9-foot-tall Tyrannosaurus Rex skeleton. I love this. It's complete with LEDs to light that fossil up. I can picture this looming over the fence at you as you drive by the yards. Alberta is already a land of fossils from ages long past, so it'll fit right in. But I do wonder if in the future there's going to be paleontologists getting the rug pulled out from under them at excavation sites. Dr. Grant, we've discovered a species not known to inhabit the region. It's 9 feet, nearly entirely intact, and appears to be, yes, injection-molded plastic. It's happened again!
Friday.
The kids are ripping CDs and loading up iPods again, and it feels like healing. Sales of classic MP3 players and even portable CD and cassette players have seen a boost on marketplaces and auction sites like eBay. A lot of new albums are being released on CD and cassette once again. I've even seen the Strokes that they've been promoting their upcoming album. They had a mail out to fans, literally mailing them like a hand-dubbed cassette of their first single from the album. This is happening in 2026. Everything old is new again. I'm flashing back to the days that you'd see people with the huge CD player on their belt, looking like a wrestling championship belt, or in my case, swimming around a pocket of my giant parachute pants. Yikes. I thought the idea was to stick to the latest and greatest tech. I just got my first Bluetooth earbuds last year. I'm not even kidding. But I love this headline, and it makes me wonder if I've got a Discman in a box somewhere that I could throw on the buy and sell. Just a tip for the kids in the market for a new old CD player: to take on the go, the higher the anti-skip buffer, the better. Don't settle for anything less than 30 seconds. Each day I see more and more snow, although, you see more and more melting, sure. But why is it even falling? I was hunting for a photo from this time last year, like early April, and I happened to catch a video that I took literally on this day in 2025, and there was not a single snowflake to be found in Fort McMurray. It looked absolutely gorgeous. And this year, we have this. For the sake of our collective and fragile mental health, Mother Nature, please cancel the flurries this weekend. We've had our 6 straight months of winter, and we're done. Wrap it up.
You're listening to the Steve Reeve Podcast from 100.5 Cruz FM.
I think it is confirmed that more Rolling Stones music, new stuff is coming very, very soon. This all started with a bit of an underground advertisement campaign. There were posters that simply just said "The Cockroaches" with a QR code in London over the past several weeks. And even April Fool's prank, suspicion has turned into an actual report that their new single, Rough and Twisted, could arrive as early as tomorrow in a white label vinyl-only release as well as digital. This would be the nearest follow-up to their Grammy Award-winning Hackney Diamonds, which wasn't my favorite album, but was their 25th studio release and released just a few years ago. This new album that is promised for release possibly as early as July will see Andrew Watt join again, of course, after the late Charlie Watt was no longer able to drum with the band. We'll have to see exactly what comes of this, but more news from the Stones, more music from the Stones coming. And a Green Day coming-of-age film has got a new title. It was previously known as New Year's Rev, and it actually premiered at the Toronto Film Festival in September of last year. It's all about a band who mistakenly think that they have been booked to open up for Green Day on New Year's Eve, hence the New Year's Rev title. But now it's been renamed Nimrods. Way better choice. Cannot wait to watch. No release date just yet, but it should be sometime this year. And Jack White announcing a huge tour that has dates in Europe, the UK. It has dates, of course, in the US and Canada and beyond. Some people were calling it a North American tour, which led me to do my investigation to see how many dates there were up north. It's not actually being held as a North American tour. There's dates all over the planet, but there is one in Canada, in Toronto. And technically, all of this tour gets kicked off this weekend with a last-minute edition 45-minute set to the Coachella lineup. That's it for your music news today. I'm Steve Reeve. There was a poll that was put up on Reddit, very informal. Recently, the question, pretty simple. Do you personally feel like you're currently smarter than your parents? Said, as in this very moment, today, not 10 years ago, not in 10 years, right now. And almost half, like 48% of people said, yes, absolutely I am. Another big chunk of people saying yes, but only for one parent. And then a sizable contribution of people saying no, not at all. And I think that comes from, of course, more life experience, more wisdom. They are the people that raised you and taught you, sure. And I think it's kind of an unfair question because there's so many aspects to it. I would say that in general, I don't have as much wisdom as my parents, but I have given them advice when they've been in a situation trying to make a life choice. And I'm like, it seems so much more simple to me than you guys are making it. And then they go, should have had a V8, a facepalm. Like, of course it is. So I've been able to share some wisdom and knowledge and experience with them. They've shared a ton with me. However, when it comes to technology, yes, absolutely smarter, 1,000%. Yeah, I am of the generation that is teaching both the older and the younger people how to make PDFs. It's a tricky situation. Also, I can help with your printer.
Transmission over. Want more Steve? New podcast episodes happen every Friday, or just tune into the Steve Reeve Show. Weekday mornings starting at 5:30 a.m. on 100.5 Cruz FM.